In the 1940s, our grandparents knew how to buy penny candy that mattered. Their coins didn't just buy sweets, they bought candy cigarettes, wax bottles with syrup, and Bonomo Turkish taffy for 1 cent that made childhood magical. These 60 forgotten penny candies from the 1940s might sound too plain today, but they kept us happy. Let's rediscover them before they're lost forever. Candy cigarettes were the most popular and controversial penny candy of the 1940s. Kids in the 1940s loved pretending to smoke like the adults they saw in movies and at home. Each candy cigarette cost 1 cent and came wrapped in paper that looked exactly like real cigarette packs. Brands like Lucky Strike, Camel, and Chesterfield were mimicked perfectly. The white candy sticks were made from sugar, cornstarch, tapioca, and gelatin, flavored with wintergreen or mint. Some versions even had a red-tipped end to look like a lit cigarette. Teachers hated them because kids would puff fake smoke using powdered sugar that came with some brands. Parents worried they encouraged real smoking, and by the 1990s, most candy cigarettes were banned or renamed candy sticks. But in the 1940s, every kid wanted them. For 1 cent, you could walk around the schoolyard looking cool, pretending to be Humphrey Bogart or Bette Davis. They're almost impossible to find now, completely vanished from penny candy jars. Wax bottles filled with colored syrup were one of the most beloved penny candies in 1940s America. For just 1 cent, kids got a tiny wax bottle shaped like a miniature soda bottle filled with sweet, fruit-flavored liquid, cherry, grape, orange, or lime. The fun was in biting off the wax top, sucking out the sugary syrup, and then chewing the waxy bottle like gum. The wax was made from paraffin, completely tasteless but chewy, and kids loved gnawing on it for hours after the syrup was gone. Candy stores kept jars filled with these colorful little bottles near the register, and kids would spend their pennies collecting as many flavors as they could. The syrup was made from corn syrup, sugar, water, and food coloring. Nothing fancy, but it tasted like pure happiness. Today, wax bottles are almost impossible to find outside of nostalgic candy shops. Most kids today have never even seen one. In the 1940s, they were everywhere. Now, they're a rare, forgotten treasure. Before we move on, many of you asked in the comments where to find these recipes. We even received tons of email, too, so we published these recipes on our website. The link is in the description. Let's continue. Bonomo Turkish taffy was one of the most iconic penny candies of the 1940s, known for its rock-hard texture and unique way of eating it. For 1 cent, kids got a flat rectangular piece of chewy taffy in flavors like vanilla, chocolate, strawberry, and banana. The candy was so hard that kids had to smack it against a hard surface, a table, the sidewalk, or their hand, to break it into bite-sized pieces. That's what made it fun. The harder you hit it, the more satisfying the crack and crunch. The taffy was made from corn syrup, sugar, egg whites, and flavorings, whipped together to create a light, airy texture. It stuck to your teeth and lasted forever, which made it worth every penny. Victor Bonomo started making it in Coney Island in 1912, and by the 1940s, it was sold in every candy store across America. Production stopped in 1989, briefly revived in 2003, but it's nearly impossible to find today. Once a 1940s staple, now a forgotten memory. Blackjack gum was America's first flavored chewing gum, and in the 1940s it cost just 1 cent per stick. Invented in 1884 by Thomas Adams, it had a bold black licorice flavor made from anise oil, giving it a sharp, sweet, slightly spicy taste that kids either loved or hated. There was no in-between. The gum came in thin black sticks wrapped in yellow and black paper, and chewing it turned your mouth and teeth temporarily black, which kids thought was hilarious. It was made from chicle, natural tree sap, sugar, corn syrup, and licorice flavoring. In the 1940s, every penny candy jar had blackjack gum, and kids would chew it for hours until the flavor faded. It stayed on the market until 1978, when it was discontinued due to poor sales, then briefly revived in the 1980s and again in 2019. Today, it's extremely hard to find. Most candy stores don't carry it. Once a 1940s legend, now almost Candy buttons were one of the most frustrating yet beloved penny candies of the 1940s. For 1 cent, kids got a long strip of white paper covered with small dots of colored sugar candy: pink, yellow, blue, and white. The candy was made from sugar, corn syrup, and food coloring baked directly onto strips of paper. The fun, and the frustration, was trying to bite off the candy dots without eating the paper. It was nearly impossible. Kids ended up chewing bits of paper along with the candy, which had a slightly chalky, sweet taste. Each strip had dozens of tiny dots, so it lasted a long time, making it a great value for a penny. Candy buttons were sold in bulk at 5 and dime stores, and kids loved peeling them off the paper strip one by one. They're still made today, but they're rare and sold mostly in nostalgic candy shops. In the 1940s, every candy store had them. Now, they're a forgotten relic of simpler times. Candy cigarettes, wax bottles, Bonamo Turkish taffy, blackjack gum, candy buttons, 5-penny candies from the 1940s that cost 1 cent and made childhood magical. Each one is nearly impossible to find now, vanished, banned, or forgotten. But 55 more 1940s penny candies are waiting. Let's keep going. Tea-berry gum was one of the most distinctive penny candies of the 1940s, known for its unique wintergreen meets mint flavor. For 1 cent, kids got a single stick of pink gum wrapped in white and red paper. The flavor came from oil of tea-berry, also called wintergreen, which gave it a sharp, refreshing, almost medicinal taste, completely different from regular spearmint or peppermint gum. The gum was made by Clark Brothers Chewing Gum Company, founded in the early 1900s, and by the 1940s, it was a staple in candy jars across America. Kids loved the intense burst of flavor when they first started chewing, though it faded quickly. The gum stayed soft and chewy, and some kids claimed it helped freshen their breath better than any other gum. Tea-berry gum stayed on the market for decades, but slowly disappeared from store shelves in the 1980s. Today, it's incredibly hard to find. Only a few nostalgic candy shops still carry it. Clove gum was one of the boldest, most unusual penny candies of the 1940s. For 1 cent, kids got a stick of gum with an intense, spicy clove flavor that tasted like nothing else in the candy jar. Made by the American Chicle Company starting in 1914, the gum was flavored with oil of cloves, the same ingredient used in toothache remedies and holiday baking. The flavor was strong, warm, and almost medicinal. Some kids loved it, others couldn't stand it. The gum came wrapped in distinctive red and white paper, and chewing it left a tingly, numbing sensation on the tongue. In the 1940s, clove gum was especially popular with adults who wanted fresh breath or relief from sore teeth. Kids bought it because it made them feel grown up. The gum was discontinued in 1978, along with blackjack and Beeman's due to low sales, then revived briefly in the 1980s and again in recent years. Today it's extremely rare. Most people under 50 have never even heard of it. Once a 1940s classic, now almost forgotten. Beeman's gum was one of the oldest and most trusted penny candies of the 1940s. For 1 cent, kids got a stick of gum with a mild, sweet peppermint flavor that was supposed to aid digestion. Created by Dr. Edward Beeman in 1898, the original formula included pepsin, a digestive enzyme which gave the gum its reputation as a health gum. By the 1940s, the pepsin was mostly symbolic, but the gum's smooth, slightly sweet flavor remained popular. It came wrapped in white and red paper with the Beeman's logo, and kids loved the clean, refreshing taste that lasted longer than most other gums. Pilots during World War II famously chewed Beeman's gum to relieve ear pressure during flights, which added to its mystique. The gum was discontinued in 1978, revived in the 1980s, and discontinued again multiple times over the decades. Today, Beeman's is incredibly hard to find. Only specialty candy shops carry it. In the 1940s, it was everywhere. Now, it's a rare piece of history. Squirrel nut zippers were one of the stickiest, chewiest penny candies of the 1940s. For 1 cent, kids got a small square of chewy caramel mixed with peanuts, wrapped in wax paper. The candy was made from molasses, sugar, peanuts, and butter, cooked together until thick and sticky. The name came from a Prohibition-era cocktail, but kids didn't care about that. They loved the sweet, nutty, and caramel flavor that stuck to their teeth and lasted forever. Squirrel nut zippers were made by the Squirrel Brand Company in Massachusetts, and by the 1940s they were sold in every candy store and five and dime across America. Chewing one was a workout. Your jaw got tired before the candy was gone. The candy stayed on the market for decades, but by the 1990s it became harder to find. Today, squirrel nut zippers are rare and sold mostly online or in specialty candy shops. In the 1940s, they were a penny candy staple. Now, they're almost completely forgotten. Horehound drops were one of the oldest and most unusual penny candies of the 1940s. For 1 cent, kids got a small, hard candy made from horehound herb extract, sugar, and molasses, giving it a bitter, earthy, almost medicinal flavor. Horehound is a plant in the mint family, and for centuries it was used as a natural remedy for sore throats and coughs. By the 1940s, Horehound drops were sold in candy jars as both a treat and a throat lozenge. The candy was dark brown or amber-colored, wrapped in wax paper, and took forever to dissolve in your mouth. Kids didn't always love the bitter taste, but grandparents swore by it, and many kids grew to like it after a few tries. The candy was especially popular in rural areas and small-town general stores. Today, horehound drops are almost impossible to find. Most modern candy stores don't carry them, and younger generations have never even heard of them. Once a 1940s staple, now a nearly extinct relic of the past. Tea-berry gum, clove gum, Beeman's, squirrel nut zippers, horehound drops. 5 more penny candies from the 1940s that cost 1 cent and defined childhood. Most are nearly impossible to find now, vanished from candy jars forever. But 50 more 1940s penny candies remain. Let's keep discovering them. Peanut butter chews. Mary Jane's were one of the most beloved peanut butter penny candies of the 1940s. For 1 cent, kids got a small rectangular chewy candy made from molasses and peanut butter, wrapped in yellow and red wax paper. Created by Charles N. Miller in 1914 and named after his favorite aunt, Mary Jane became a penny candy staple by the 1940s. The candy had a rich, sweet molasses flavor mixed with creamy peanut butter that stuck to your teeth and lasted forever. Each piece was dense and chewy, requiring serious jaw work to finish. Kids loved the combination of sweet and salty, and the candy was filling enough to be a satisfying snack. Mary Janes were sold in bulk at five-and-dime stores, candy shops, and corner groceries across America. The candy is still made today by Necco, now Spangler, but it's nowhere near as popular as it was in the 1940s. Most kids today have never tried one. Once a 1940s icon, now fading into obscurity. Necco wafers were one of the oldest and most iconic penny candies of the 1940s. For 1 cent, kids got a roll of 8 pastel-colored wafers in flavors like lemon, lime, orange, clove, cinnamon, wintergreen, licorice, and chocolate. Invented in 1847 by Oliver Chase, Necco wafers became famous during World War II when they were included in soldiers' rations because they didn't melt and could survive extreme heat and cold. By the 1940s, every candy store in America sold Necco wafers. The wafers were thin, chalky, and slightly sweet, with a texture that dissolved slowly on your tongue. Kids either loved them or hated them. The clove and licorice flavors were especially polarizing. Each roll was wrapped in paper, and kids would trade their least favorite flavors with friends. Necco wafers stayed on the market for over 170 years until the company went bankrupt in 2018. They were briefly revived in 2020 but remain hard to find. Once a 1940s wartime staple, now a rare nostalgic treat. Wax lips were one of the funniest and most popular novelty penny candies of the 1940s. For 1 cent, kids got a pair of bright red wax lips that they could wear over their own lips, creating an exaggerated clown-like smile. The wax was made from paraffin, completely flavorless but chewable, and kids would wear the lips for hours, making silly faces and cracking each other up. After the novelty wore off, they'd chew the wax like gum, though it had no taste and got hard quickly. Wax lips were sold in candy jars at five-and-dime stores, and kids loved them because they were both a toy and a candy. Some versions came with a small candy coating for a hint of sweetness. In the 1940s, wax lips were everywhere. Every kid wanted a pair. Today they're still made, but sold mostly as novelty items in specialty candy shops. Most modern kids have never seen them. Once a 1940s staple, now a rare, nostalgic curiosity. Wax mustaches were the male counterpart to wax lips and one of the funniest penny candies of the 1940s. For 1 cent, kids got a black or brown wax mustache that they could stick under their nose, pretending to be their fathers, grandfathers, or famous actors like Clark Gable and Charlie Chaplin. The wax was made from paraffin, flavorless and chewy, and kids would wear the mustache until it fell off, then chew it like gum. The mustache had a small tab that pressed against the gums to hold it in place. Some versions came with a stick attached so kids could hold it up like a prop. In the 1940s, wax mustaches were sold in candy jars alongside wax lips, and boys loved pretending to be grown men with fancy facial hair. After the novelty wore off, they'd chew the wax for hours. Today, wax mustaches are extremely rare. Only specialty candy shops carry them. Most kids today have never even seen one. Once a 1940s favorite, now almost completely vanished. Black licorice pipes were one of the most detailed and realistic-looking penny candies of the 1940s. For 1 cent, kids got a small candy pipe made from black licorice, shaped to look exactly like the tobacco pipes their fathers and grandfathers smoked. The pipe had a bowl and a long stem, and kids loved pretending to smoke it, holding it in their mouths and puffing imaginary smoke. The licorice was made from molasses, sugar, wheat flour, and natural licorice extract, giving it a strong, bold, slightly bitter flavor. The candy was firm and chewy, and kids would nibble on the stem first, saving the bowl for last. Black licorice pipes were sold in bulk at candy stores and five and dimes, and they were especially popular with boys who wanted to imitate their fathers. By the 1970s, licorice pipes became harder to find, and today they're almost completely extinct. Most candy stores don't carry them anymore. Once a 1940s staple, may now a rare piece of candy history. Red licorice shoelaces were one of the longest-lasting penny candies of the 1940s. For 1 cent, kids got a single long strand of red licorice, soft and chewy, shaped like a shoelace. The candy was made from wheat flour, corn syrup, sugar, and red food coloring, flavored with strawberry or cherry. Unlike black licorice, which had a bold, bitter taste, red licorice was sweet and fruity, making it much more popular with kids. The shoelaces were sold in jars at candy stores, and kids loved them because they could eat them slowly, nibbling a little at a time, or tie them in knots and challenge friends to untie them with their teeth. Some kids even tried to use them as actual shoelaces, though they'd fall apart quickly. Red licorice shoelaces were a penny candy classic, and they're still sold today under brands like Red Vines and Twizzlers, though they're no longer sold by the piece for a penny. Once a 1940s favorite, now mass-produced and less special, was one of the stickiest, chewiest penny candies of the 1940s. For 1 cent, kids got a small rectangular piece of honey-flavored taffy mixed with tiny bits of almond, wrapped in yellow wax paper. Created in 1924 by the Shutter Johnson Company in Chicago, Bit-O Honey became a penny candy staple by the 1940s. The candy was made from honey, sugar, corn syrup, and ground almonds, giving it a sweet, nutty flavor that stuck to your teeth and lasted forever. Each piece was dense and chewy, requiring serious jaw work to finish. Kids loved the combination of honey sweetness and crunchy almond bits, and the candy was filling enough to be a satisfying snack. Bit-O Honey was sold in bulk at candy stores and five and dimes across America. The candy is still made today, but it's nowhere near as popular as it was in the 1940s. Most kids today have never tried it. Once a 1940s icon, now a forgotten relic, sold mostly in nostalgic candy assortments. Walnettos were one of the most distinctive penny candies of the 1940s, known for their rich maple walnut flavor. For 1 cent, kids got a small rectangular chewy candy made from corn syrup, sugar, butter, and real maple flavoring mixed with walnut pieces. Created by the J.N. Collins Company in 1919, Walnettos became a penny candy favorite by the 1940s, especially in New England and the Midwest, where maple syrup was a regional staple. The candy was soft, buttery, and slightly grainy, with a warm, sweet maple taste and the crunch of walnut bits. Each piece was wrapped in wax paper, and kids loved the combination of creamy sweetness and nutty texture. Walnettos were sold in bulk at candy stores and corner groceries, and they were especially popular in colder months. The candy is still made today, but it's become a regional specialty. Most candy stores outside the Northeast don't carry it. Once a 1940s staple, now a rare, forgotten treat. Charleston Chew was one of the most satisfying penny candies of the 1940s. For 1 cent, kids got a small piece of chewy nougat covered in chocolate, flavored with vanilla, chocolate, or strawberry. Created in 1925 by the Fox-Cross Candy Company and named after the popular Charleston dance, the candy became a penny candy staple by the 1940s. The nougat was made from corn syrup, sugar, egg whites, and flavorings whipped together to create a light, airy, a marshmallow-like texture. The chocolate coating was thin but rich, and the combination of chewy nougat and smooth chocolate made it incredibly satisfying. Kids loved freezing Charleston Chews and then smashing them into bite-sized pieces. Frozen, the nougat became crunchy and brittle. The candy was sold in bulk at candy stores and five and dimes across America. Charleston Chew is still made today, but it's nowhere near as popular as it was in the 1940s. Most kids today have never tried one. Once a 1940s favorite, now fading into obscurity. Caramel creams, also known as bullseyes, were one of the most beloved penny candies of the 1940s. For 1 cent, kids got a small round candy with a soft, creamy vanilla center surrounded by smooth, chewy caramel. Created by the Goetz's Candy Company in 1918, caramel creams became a penny candy staple by the 1940s. The candy was made from corn syrup, sugar, condensed milk, and vanilla, giving it a rich, buttery flavor that melted in your mouth. Each piece was wrapped in clear wax paper with red stripes, and kids loved biting through the caramel to reach the soft, sweet center. The candy was dense and filling, making it a great value for a penny. Caramel creams were sold in bulk at candy stores and five and dimes across America. The candy is still made today and remains popular in nostalgic candy assortments, but most kids today don't know the name Bull's Eyes. Once a 1940s icon, now a rare, old-fashioned treat. Red licorice shoelaces, Bit-O honey, Walnettos, Charleston Chew, caramel creams, 5 more penny candies from the 1940s that cost 1 cent and brought happiness. 20 down, each one a memory most kids today will never know. 40 more 1940s penny candies are waiting. Let's keep discovering them. Tootsie Rolls were the most iconic and enduring penny candy of the 1940s. For 1 cent, kids got a small cylindrical piece of chocolate-flavored taffy that was chewy, sweet, and lasted forever. Created by Leo Hirschfield in 1896 in New York City, Tootsie Rolls were named after his daughter, Clara, whose nickname was Tootsie. By the 1940s, Tootsie Rolls had become America's favorite penny candy, sold in every candy store, five and dime, and corner grocery across the country. The candy was made from sugar, corn syrup, condensed milk, cocoa, and vegetable oil, giving it a unique chocolate flavor that wasn't quite milk chocolate and wasn't quite dark chocolate. It was something in between, with a hint of vanilla. The texture was firm but chewy, and kids loved how long it lasted in their mouths. Each Tootsie Roll was individually wrapped in wax paper with the iconic logo printed in red and white. During World War II, Tootsie Rolls were included in soldiers' rations because they didn't melt in the heat and could withstand extreme temperatures. Soldiers loved them, and when they returned home, Tootsie Rolls became even more popular. The candy is still made today and remains one of the best-selling candies in America. Unlike most 1940s penny candies, Tootsie Rolls never vanished. They're still everywhere, still delicious, and still a reminder of simpler times when a penny bought pure happiness. Sugar Daddy was one of the longest-lasting penny candies of the 1940s. For 1 cent, kids got a small caramel lollipop on a stick that took forever to finish. Created by the Welch Company in 1925, Sugar Daddy became a penny candy staple by the 1940s, sold in candy jars at stores across America. The candy was made from corn syrup, sugar, condensed milk, and butter, cooked together until thick and sticky, then poured into molds and attached to wooden sticks. The result was a dense, chewy caramel pop that required serious jaw work to finish. Kids loved Sugar Daddy because it lasted so long. You could suck on it, bite it, and chew it for what felt like hours. The caramel was sweet, buttery, and rich, with a flavor that deepened the longer you worked on it. Each sugar daddy was wrapped in yellow wax paper with the brand name printed in red. The candy was especially popular at movie theaters and penny candy counters. Sugar Daddy is still made today, though the mini penny-sized versions are harder to find. The full-size pops are still sold, but they're no longer the penny candy bargain they once were. In the 1940s, Sugar Daddy was a childhood staple. Today, it's a nostalgic treat that most kids have never tried. Double Bubble was the first successful bubble gum ever created and one of the most popular penny candies of the 1940s. For 1 cent, kids got a small pink cube of gum wrapped in wax paper with a comic strip printed inside. Created by Walter Deemer, an accountant at the Fleer Chewing Gum Company in 1928, Double Bubble revolutionized the candy industry. Unlike earlier bubble gums, which were too sticky and didn't blow bubbles well, Double Bubble had the perfect texture, stretchy, elastic, and able to blow huge bubbles without tearing. The gum was made from chicle, natural tree sap, sugar, corn syrup, and artificial flavoring, giving it a sweet, fruity taste that lasted longer than most gums. The pink color was accidental. Pink was the only food coloring Deemer had on hand when he perfected the formula, and it stuck. By the 1940s, Double Bubble was sold in every candy store, five and dime, and corner grocery across America. Kids loved the comic strips inside each wrapper, which featured characters like Pud and Dub. Blowing bubbles became a competitive sport in schoolyards, and the kid who could blow the biggest bubble was a legend. Double Bubble is still made today, and the formula has barely changed. The gum is still pink, still comes with comics, and still costs far more than a penny. Once the king of 1940s penny candy, now a nostalgic classic. Bazooka Bubble Gum was introduced in 1947 and quickly became one of the most beloved penny candies of the late 1940s. For 1 cent, kids got a small rectangular piece of pink bubble gum wrapped in wax paper with a comic strip featuring Bazooka Joe and his gang. Created by the Topps Company, Bazooka was named after the bazooka rocket launcher used in World War II, giving the gum a tough, adventurous image. The gum was made from chicle, sugar, corn syrup, and artificial flavoring, with a sweet, fruity taste that lasted longer than most other gums. The texture was firm at first, but softened quickly, making it perfect for blowing bubbles. What made Bazooka special was the comic strip inside each wrapper. Bazooka Joe, a kid with an eye patch, appeared in short and funny comics along with his friends Mort, Jane, and Hungry Herman. Kids collected the comics and traded them at school. Some wrappers even had fortunes or jokes printed on them. By the late 1940s, Bazooka was sold in every candy store and five and dime across America. Kids loved it because it was fun, cheap, and came with a prize. Bazooka Bubble Gum is still made today, though the comics have changed, and the gum no longer costs a penny. Once a 1940s childhood staple, now a nostalgic reminder of simpler times when a penny bought happiness and a laugh. Root beer barrels were one of the most flavorful and long-lasting penny candies of the 1940s. For 1 cent, kids got a small barrel-shaped hard candy that tasted exactly like old-fashioned root beer. The candy was made from sugar, corn syrup, and natural root beer flavoring, which included oils of wintergreen, anise, vanilla, and sassafras, giving it a complex, slightly spicy, sweet taste. Each candy was hard and took a long time to dissolve, making it a great value for a penny. Kids loved the authentic root beer taste. It was like drinking a soda, but in candy form. Root beer barrels were sold in bulk at candy stores, five and dimes, and corner groceries, and kids would fill their pockets with them. The candy was especially popular in the summer when root beer floats were a favorite treat. Some kids would suck on a root beer barrel while drinking milk, creating a makeshift root beer float in their mouths. The candy had a glossy, amber-colored finish and was individually wrapped in clear cellophane. Root beer barrels are still made today and remain a popular nostalgic candy sold in bulk bins and old-fashioned candy shops. Unlike many 1940s penny candies, root beer barrels never vanished. They're still around, still delicious, and still a reminder of simpler times when a penny bought a taste of summer. Tootsie Rolls, Sugar Daddy, Double Bubble, Bazooka Joe, root beer barrels, 5 more penny candies from the 1940s that cost 1 cent and brought pure joy. 25 down, each one a memory most kids today will never taste. 35 more 1940s penny candies are waiting. Let's keep going. Lemon Drops were one of the oldest and most refreshing penny candies of the 1940s. For 1 cent, kids got a small, round, hard candy with a bright, tart lemon flavor that made their mouths pucker. So Lemon Drops had been around since the 1800s, made from sugar, corn syrup, citric acid, and natural lemon oil, giving them an intense, authentic lemon taste. The candy was hard and took a long time to dissolve, making it a great value for a penny. Some versions were coated in powdered sugar, which added a sweet burst before the sour lemon flavor kicked in. Kids loved Lemon Drops because they were refreshing, especially on hot summer days. The candy was sold in bulk at candy stores, 5 and dimes, and corner groceries, and kids would buy several at a time and suck on them slowly. Lemon Drops were also popular with adults who kept them in their pockets or purses to freshen their breath. The candy had a smooth, glossy finish and was individually wrapped in clear or yellow cellophane. Lemon Drops are still made today and remain a popular classic candy sold in bulk bins and old-fashioned candy shops. Unlike many 1940s penny candies, Lemon Drops never vanished. They're still around, still tart, and still a reminder of simpler times when a penny bought a burst of sunshine. Peppermint sticks were one of the most iconic and festive penny candies of the 1940s. For 1 cent, kids got a long, slender stick of hard candy with bold red and white stripes and a strong, refreshing peppermint flavor. Peppermint sticks had been around since the 1800s. Unoriginally handmade by candy makers who pulled and twisted hot sugar into striped patterns. By the 1940s, they were mass-produced and sold in candy jars at stores across America. The candy was made from sugar, corn syrup, and pure peppermint oil, giving it an intense, cooling flavor that tingled the tongue. Each stick was about 6 inches long and took forever to finish. Kids would suck on them until they became sharp and jagged. Peppermint sticks were especially popular during the Christmas season, when they were used to decorate trees and fill stockings. Some kids would poke a peppermint stick into an orange or a pickle and suck the juice through it, creating a sweet and sour treat. The candy was also used to stir hot chocolate, adding a minty twist to the drink. Peppermint sticks are still made today, especially around the holidays, and remain a nostalgic favorite. Unlike many 1940s penny candies, peppermint sticks never vanished. Candy corn was one of the most iconic and divisive penny candies of the 1940s. For 1 cent, kids got a small handful of tri-colored candy kernels shaped like corn, with a yellow base, orange center, and white tip. Invented in the 1880s by George Renninger of the Wunderl Candy Company, candy corn became a penny candy staple by the 1940s. The candy was made from sugar, corn syrup, confectioner's glaze, and honey, giving it a smooth, waxy texture and a sweet, honey-vanilla flavor. Each piece was small and could be eaten in one bite, but kids loved to nibble them layer by layer, yellow first, then orange, then white. Candy corn was sold in bulk at candy stores and 5 and dimes, especially in the fall during Halloween season. Kids loved it, but it was polarizing. Some thought it was the best candy ever made, while others found the texture too waxy and the flavor too sweet. Candy corn was also used as a decoration, filling jars and bowls at Halloween parties. The candy is still made today, primarily by the Brock's Company, and remains one of the most popular Halloween candies in America. Unlike many 1940s penny candies, candy corn never vanished. It's still around, still controversial, and still a reminder of simpler times when a penny bought a handful of autumn. Jawbreakers were one of the hardest and longest-lasting penny candies of the 1940s. For 1 cent, kids got a small, round candy made from layers upon layers of hard sugar, built up like an onion. The candy started as a tiny seed, usually an anise seed or a grain of sugar, and was coated repeatedly with colored sugar syrup until it reached the size of a marble or even larger. The result was a candy so hard it was nearly impossible to bite through. Hence the name Jawbreaker. Kids would suck on them for hours, slowly dissolving each layer and revealing new colors and flavors underneath. Jawbreakers were made from sugar, corn syrup, and artificial flavoring, with each layer sometimes flavored differently: cherry, lemon, lime, orange, grape. The candy was sold in bulk at candy stores and 5 and dimes, and kids loved them because they lasted so long, making them the best value for a penny. Some kids would take the Jawbreaker out of their mouth to check the color, then put it back in and keep going. Jawbreakers are still made today in various sizes, from tiny to gobstopper huge, and remain a popular classic candy. Unlike many 1940s penny candies, Jawbreakers never vanished. They're still around, still hard, and still a reminder of simpler times when a penny bought hours of entertainment. Dum-Dums were one of the most popular and affordable penny candies of the 1940s. For 1 cent, kids got a small lollipop on a stick in a wide variety of flavors: cherry, grape, orange, lemon, lime, butterscotch, root beer, and more. Created by the Akron Candy Company in 1924, Dum-Dums became a penny candy staple by the 1940s, sold in candy jars at stores across America. The name Dum-Dums was chosen because it was easy for kids to say, and the short stick made the lollipops perfect for small hands. Each lollipop was made from sugar, corn syrup, and artificial flavoring, with a smooth, hard candy shell that dissolved slowly on the tongue. The lollipops were individually wrapped in wax paper with the flavor printed on the wrapper, and kids loved trading flavors with friends. Dum-Dums were especially popular at banks, doctors' offices, and barber shops, where they were given out for free to kids. The mystery flavor, a mix created when the machines switched between flavors, became legendary. They're still around, still colorful, and still a reminder of simpler times when a penny bought a sweet reward. Lemon drops, peppermint sticks, candy corn, Jawbreakers, Dum-Dums. 5 more penny candies from the 1940s that cost 1 cent and brought smiles. 30 more 1940s penny candies remain. Let's keep discovering them before they're lost forever. Safety Pops were one of the most innovative penny candies introduced in the 1940s. For 1 cent, kids got a small lollipop with a unique safety feature: a looped handle instead of a straight stick, designed to prevent choking. Invented in 1940 by the Safety Pop Company, the lollipop was created after a tragic incident where a child choked on a lollipop stick. The loop-shaped handle made it impossible for the stick to be swallowed, making it safer for young children. Each Safety Pop was made from sugar, corn syrup, and artificial flavoring, with flavors like cherry, grape, orange, and lemon. The candy was hard and lasted a long time, making it a great value for a penny. The loop handle also made it easier for kids to hold without dropping it, and some kids wore the loop on their fingers like a ring. Safety Pops were sold in bulk at candy stores and 5 and dimes across America, and parents loved them because they felt safer giving them to young children. The lollipops were individually wrapped in cellophane with the Safety Pop logo printed on the wrapper. Safety Pops are still made today, though they're less common than they were in the 1940s. Unlike many 1940s penny candies, Safety Pops never vanished. They're still around, still safe, and still a reminder of when safety and sweetness came together for just 1 cent. Cinnamon Imperials, better known as Red Hots, were one of the spiciest and most intense penny candies of the 1940s. For 1 cent, kids got a small handful of tiny, bright red candy balls with a fiery cinnamon flavor that made their mouths burn. The candy was made from sugar, corn syrup, and pure cinnamon oil, giving it an authentic, powerful cinnamon taste that was almost medicinal. Each piece was small, about the size of a peppercorn, and hard, taking a long time to dissolve. Kids loved the challenge of eating as many as they could without crying. Cinnamon Imperials were hot enough to make eyes water. The candy was sold in bulk at candy stores and 5 and dimes, scooped out of big glass jars and poured into small paper bags. Cinnamon Imperials were especially popular around Valentine's Day, when they were used to decorate cakes and cookies in the shape of hearts. Some kids would hold a handful in their mouths all at once, competing to see who could handle the heat the longest. The candy is still made today under brands like Ferrara and Hot Tamales, and it remains a popular classic. Unlike many 1940s penny candies, Cinnamon Imperials never vanished. They're still around, still hot, and still a reminder of simpler times when a penny bought a mouthful of fire. Anise squares were one of the most unusual and polarizing penny candies of the 1940s. For 1 cent, kids got a small square hard candy with a strong black licorice flavor made from anise oil. The candy was made from sugar, corn syrup, and pure anise extract, giving it a bold, herbal, slightly medicinal taste that kids either loved or hated. There was no in-between. Anise squares were hard and took a long time to dissolve, making them a great value for a penny. The candy was sold in bulk at candy stores and 5 and dimes, and kids who loved black licorice couldn't get enough of them. The flavor was intense and lingering, coating the mouth long after the candy was gone. Anise squares were especially popular with older kids and adults who appreciated the authentic old-fashioned flavor. Some people believed anise candy helped settle upset stomachs, and so parents would give it to kids who felt sick. The candy was individually wrapped in clear or white wax paper, and each square had a glossy, amber-colored finish. Anise squares are extremely rare today. Most candy stores don't carry them, and younger generations have never even heard of them. Unlike many 1940s penny candies, anise squares have almost completely vanished. Once a 1940s staple, now a forgotten relic of the past. Clove drops were one of the boldest and most medicinal-tasting penny candies of the 1940s. For 1 cent, kids got a small round hard candy with an intense, spicy clove flavor made from oil of cloves. The candy was made from sugar, corn syrup, and pure clove oil, giving it a warm, pungent, almost medicinal taste that tingled the tongue and numbed the mouth. Clove drops were hard and took a long time to dissolve, making them a great value for a penny. The flavor was so strong that one candy could last for an hour or more. Kids who loved bold flavors couldn't get enough of them, but most kids found them too intense and avoided them. Clove drops were sold in bulk at candy stores and five and dimes, especially in rural areas and small-town general stores. Adults loved clove drops because they believed clove oil helped relieve toothaches and sore throats, so parents would give them to kids who complained of pain. The candy was individually wrapped in clear or brown wax paper, and each drop had a smooth, glossy finish. Clove drops are extremely rare today. Most candy stores don't carry them, and younger generations have never even heard of them. Unlike many 1940s penny candies, clove drops have almost completely vanished. Once a 1940s staple, now a forgotten piece of candy history. Butterscotch discs were one of the smoothest and most satisfying penny candies of the 1940s. For 1 cent, kids got a small, round, hard candy with a rich, buttery, caramel-like flavor. The candy was made from brown sugar, butter, cream, and vanilla, cooked together until it reached a hard crack stage, then poured into molds and shaped into flat discs. The result was a candy with a deep, complex flavor that tasted like toffee, caramel, and vanilla all mixed together. Butterscotch discs were hard and took a long time to dissolve, making them a great value for a penny. Kids loved the smooth, creamy taste that coated their mouths and lasted forever. The candy was sold in bulk at candy stores and five and dimes, and kids would fill their pockets with them. Butterscotch discs were especially popular with grandparents, who kept them in candy dishes and handed them out to visiting grandchildren. The candy was individually wrapped in clear or gold cellophane, and each disc had a shiny amber-colored finish. Butterscotch discs are still made today and remain a popular classic candy sold in bulk bins and old-fashioned candy shops. Unlike many 1940s penny candies, butterscotch discs never vanished. They're still around, still smooth, and still a reminder of simpler times when a penny bought a taste of pure, buttery sweetness. Saft tea pops, cinnamon imperials, anise squares, clove drops, butterscotch discs. 5 more penny candies from the 1940s that cost 1 cent and brought flavor. 35 down. Each one a taste most kids today will never know. 25 more 1940s penny candies remain. Let's finish strong. Neapolitan coconut squares were one of the most colorful and exotic penny candies of the 1940s. For 1 cent, kids got a small square candy with 3 layers: pink, white, and chocolate, made from shredded coconut, sugar, and condensed milk. The candy was inspired by Neapolitan ice cream, and each layer had a different flavor: strawberry, vanilla, and chocolate. The texture was soft, chewy, and slightly grainy from the coconut flakes, and the candy was sweet and rich, with a tropical coconut flavor that made it feel special. Neapolitan coconut squares were made by pressing the coconut mixture into molds and letting it set, then cutting it into small squares. Each piece was wrapped in wax paper, and kids loved peeling off the wrapper to reveal the colorful layers. The candy was sold in bulk at candy stores and five and dimes, especially in coastal areas and tropical regions. Kids loved the exotic flavor. Coconut wasn't as common in American candy as it is today, so Neapolitan coconut squares felt like a vacation in your mouth. The candy is extremely rare today. Most candy stores don't carry it, and younger generations have never even heard of it. Unlike many 1940s penny candies, Neapolitan coconut squares have almost completely vanished. Once a 1940s favorite, now a forgotten tropical treasure. Banana Splits Chews were one of the fruitiest and most unusual penny candies of the 1940s. For 1 cent, kids got a small, rectangular, chewy candy with a bright, artificial banana flavor. The candy was made from taffy or Turkish taffy, flavored with banana extract and colored yellow to match the fruit. The texture was soft and chewy, and the flavor was sweet and intensely banana. the kind of artificial banana taste that tasted more like candy than actual bananas. Kids loved the bold, fruity flavor, and the candy was dense and filling, making it a great value for a penny. Banana Splits chews were sold in bulk at candy stores and 5 and dimes, and kids would buy several at a time and chew them slowly. The candy was inspired by the popular banana split dessert, and some versions even had swirls of strawberry or chocolate flavoring to mimic the ice cream treat. Each piece was wrapped in yellow wax paper with the brand name printed in red or brown. Banana Splits chews are extremely rare today. Most candy stores don't carry them, and younger generations have never even heard of them. Unlike many 1940s penny candies, Banana Splits chews have almost completely vanished. Once a 1940s favorite, now a forgotten piece of fruity nostalgia. Licorice Twists were one of the most classic and satisfying penny candies of the 1940s. For 1 cent, kids got a single long strand of black licorice twisted into a spiral or braid. The candy was made from wheat flour, molasses, sugar, and natural licorice extract, giving it a bold, slightly bitter, earthy flavor that kids either loved or hated. Licorice Twists were soft and chewy, and kids loved pulling them apart and nibbling on them slowly. The candy was sold in bulk at candy stores and 5 and dimes, and kids would fill their pockets with them. Licorice Twists were especially popular with boys who would use them as pretend whips, lassos, or jump ropes before eating them. The candy had a glossy black finish and was individually wrapped in wax paper or sold loose in jars. Licorice Twists were also popular with adults who believed licorice helped settle upset stomachs and ease sore throats. The candy is still made today under brands like Red Vines and Twizzlers, though most modern licorice is red and flavored with strawberry or cherry instead of real licorice. Black Licorice Twists are less common now, and younger generations often find the flavor too strong. Unlike many 1940s penny candies, Licorice Twists never vanished. They're still around, still bold, and still a reminder of simpler times when a penny bought a taste of tradition. Candy necklaces were one of the most fun and playful penny candies of the 1940s. For 1 cent, kids got a necklace made from small, colorful candy beads strung on elastic thread. The candy beads were made from sugar, corn syrup, and food coloring, giving them a sweet, slightly chalky taste. Each bead was about the size of a Cheerio, and the necklace had dozens of them in bright colors: pink, yellow, green, blue, white. Kids loved wearing the necklaces around their necks like jewelry, then nibbling off 1 bead at a time throughout the day. The candy was both a toy and a treat, making it a great value for a penny. Candy necklaces were sold in bulk at candy stores and 5 and dimes, and kids would buy several and wear them all at once. Some kids would trade beads with friends, saving their favorite colors for last. The elastic thread was strong enough to hold the beads together, but weak enough to break easily. So kids had to be careful not to snap the necklace and lose all the candy. Candy necklaces are still made today and remain a popular novelty candy sold at party stores and candy shops. Unlike many 1940s penny candies, candy necklaces never vanished. They're still around, still colorful, and still a reminder of simpler times when a penny bought jewelry you could eat. Rock candy sticks were one of the oldest and most beautiful penny candies of the 1940s. For 1 cent, kids got a small wooden stick covered in crystallized sugar, creating a hard, crunchy candy that looked like tiny jewels. Rock candy was made by dissolving sugar in boiling water, then suspending a string or stick in the solution and letting it cool slowly. As the water evaporated, sugar crystals formed on the stick, creating a sparkling, edible sculpture. The candy was pure sugar with no added flavoring, though some versions were tinted with food coloring to create colorful crystals in pink, blue, or purple. Kids loved the crunchy texture and the pure, sweet taste that dissolved slowly on the tongue. Rock candy sticks were sold in bulk at candy stores and five and dimes, and kids loved them because they looked like magic. The candy was also popular with adults who used rock candy sticks to sweeten tea or coffee. Each stick took days to make, which made it feel special and valuable. Rock candy sticks are still made today and remain a popular classic candy, and sold in bulk bins and old-fashioned candy shops. Unlike many 1940s penny candies, rock candy never vanished. It's still around, still beautiful, and still a reminder of simpler times when a penny bought a taste of pure, crystallized sweetness. Neapolitan coconut squares, banana splits, chews, licorice twists, candy necklaces, rock candy sticks. 5 more penny candies from the 1940s that cost 1 cent and brought happiness. 40 down, each one a treasure most kids today will never see. 20 more 1940s penny candies remain. Almost there. Orange slices were one of the most colorful and flavorful penny candies of the 1940s. For 1 cent, kids got a small wedge-shaped candy that looked exactly like a slice of orange, complete with a curved shape and a sugar-coated exterior. The candy was made from sugar, corn syrup, gelatin, citric acid, and orange flavoring, giving it a sweet tart taste that captured the essence of fresh oranges perfectly. Each slice was bright orange on the inside and coated with coarse sugar crystals on the outside, creating a satisfying crunch before you bit into the soft, chewy center. The texture was firm and jelly-like, similar to gumdrops, but denser and more flavorful than most other jelly candies. Kids loved orange slices because they tasted like real fruit, but were sweeter and lasted much longer in their mouths. The candy was sold in bulk at candy stores and five and dimes, scooped out of big glass jars and poured into small paper bags for eager customers. Orange slices were especially popular during the summer months when citrus flavors felt refreshing and bright on hot days. Some candy stores also sold lemon slices, lime slices, and grapefruit slices, but orange was always the most popular flavor by far. Each slice was individually dusted with sugar, and kids loved licking the sugar coating off first before chewing the jelly center slowly. But orange slices were also popular at Halloween and Christmas when they were used to fill stockings and candy bowls at holiday parties. The candy is still made today and remains a popular classic, sold in bulk bins at candy shops and grocery stores across America. Unlike many 1940s penny candies, orange slices never vanished. They're still around, still bright, and still a reminder of simpler times when a penny bought a taste of pure sunshine. And orange slices were one of the few candies that felt both nostalgic and timeless, a candy that grandparents, parents, and kids could all enjoy together at family gatherings. The candy's simple ingredients and bold flavor made it a staple of 1940s penny candy jars, and its enduring popularity proves that sometimes the simplest candies are the best ones. In the 1940s, every candy store had jars of orange slices near the register, and kids would press their faces against the glass, pointing at the bright orange wedges and asking for just one more piece to take home with them. Spearmint leaves were one of the most refreshing and minty penny candies of the 1940s that kids absolutely loved buying. For 1 cent, kids got a small leaf-shaped candy that looked exactly like a mint leaf, complete with detailed veins and a pointed tip that made it realistic. The candy was made from sugar, corn syrup, gelatin, and natural spearmint oil, and giving it a cool, refreshing mint flavor that wasn't as intense as peppermint candies. Each leaf was bright green and coated with coarse sugar crystals on the outside, creating a satisfying crunch before you bit into the soft, chewy center that lasted. The texture was firm and jelly-like, similar to gumdrops, but with a more defined shape that kids found more appealing than regular gumdrops. Kids loved spearmint leaves because they tasted fresh and clean, like chewing gum but in candy form that they could actually swallow and enjoy. The candy was sold in bulk at candy stores and five and dimes, and kids would fill their pockets with them to enjoy throughout the entire day. Spearmint leaves were especially popular after meals because they helped freshen breath and settle upset stomachs, according to what parents believed at the time. Some parents even gave them to kids who felt carsick or nauseous during long car trips, and believing the mint flavor would help them feel much better. Each leaf was individually dusted with sugar, and kids loved licking the sugar coating off first before chewing the jelly center and savoring the mint flavor. Spearmint leaves were also popular at Christmas, when they were used to decorate gingerbread houses and fill candy dishes for holiday guests and family members. The candy is still made today and remains a popular classic. It's sold in bulk bins at candy shops and old-fashioned general stores across the country. Unlike many 1940s penny candies, spearmint leaves never vanished. They're still around, still green, and still a reminder of simpler times when a penny bought freshness. Spearmint leaves were one of the few candies that felt both fun and functional, a candy that tasted good and made you feel better after eating. The candy's realistic leaf shape made it feel special, and kids loved pretending they were eating real mint leaves from the garden outside their homes. In the 1940s, spearmint leaves were a penny candy staple. Mint leaves were one of the most cooling and soothing penny candies of the 1940s that brought instant refreshment to hot summer days. For 1 cent, kids got a small leaf-shaped candy that looked exactly like a peppermint leaf, complete with detailed veins and a pointed tip design. The candy was made from sugar, corn syrup, gelatin, and natural peppermint oil, giving it a strong, icy mint flavor that was more intense than spearmint candies. Each leaf was light green or white and coated with coarse sugar crystals on the outside, creating a satisfying crunch before you bit into the center. The texture was firm and jelly-like. Chinese kids loved how the mint flavor exploded in their mouths with the very first bite they took. Mint leaves were sold in bulk at candy stores and five and dimes, and kids would buy several at a time and suck on them very slowly. The candy was especially popular in the winter when colds and sore throats were common. Parents would give mint leaves to kids who had stuffy noses or throats. But some kids would hold a mint leaf in their mouths during class to stay alert and focused on their schoolwork throughout the long day. Each leaf was individually dusted with sugar, and the sugar coating added a sweet burst before the cool mint flavor kicked in and refreshed mouth. Mint leaves were also popular at weddings and fancy dinners when they were served in small dishes as after-dinner mints for guests to enjoy freely. The candy is still made today and remains a popular classic, sold in bulk bins at candy shops and specialty stores throughout the United States. Unlike many 1940s penny candies, mint leaves never vanished. They're still around, still cool, and still a reminder of simpler times when a penny mattered. Mint leaves were one of the few candies that felt both indulgent and medicinal, a candy that tasted good and made you feel healthier after. Necco wafers were one of the oldest, most iconic, and most controversial penny candies of the 1940s that people either loved or despised completely. For 1 cent, kids got a roll of 8 thin, pastel-colored wafers in flavors like lemon, lime, orange. The clove and licorice flavors were especially polarizing, and kids would trade their least favorite colors with friends to get the flavors they actually enjoyed eating. During World War II, Necco wafers became legendary because they were included in soldiers' rations and sent overseas to troops fighting in Europe and Asia. The candy didn't melt in extreme heat, didn't freeze in extreme cold, and could survive being dropped, crushed, or soaked in water during combat. Soldiers loved them because they were lightweight, portable, and provided a quick burst of sugar energy during long marches and difficult battles overseas. After the war, Necco wafers became even more popular, and every candy store in America sold them to eager customers who remembered them fondly. Each roll was wrapped in paper with the iconic Necco logo, and kids would unroll them slowly, savoring each flavor one at a time. Necco wafers stayed on the market for over 170 years, on becoming one of the longest-running candies in American history and a true classic. In 2018, the Necco company went bankrupt and the candy was discontinued, devastating fans across the country who grew up with them. In 2020, the Spangler Candy Company bought the brand and revived Necco wafers, but they're still hard to find today and not available. Once a 1940s wartime staple and a symbol of American resilience, Necco wafers are now a rare, nostalgic treasure that most kids have never tasted. Tootsie Rolls were the undisputed king of penny candy in the 1940s and remained the favorite for decades after the war ended successfully. For 1 cent, kids got a small cylindrical piece of chocolate-flavored taffy that was chewy, sweet, and lasted forever in their mouths without dissolving quickly. Created by Leo Hirschfield in 1896 in New York City, and Tootsie Rolls were named after his daughter, Clara, whose nickname was Tootsie at home. By the 1940s, Tootsie Rolls had become the most popular penny candy in America, sold in every candy store, five and dime, corner grocery, and gas station. The candy was made from sugar, corn syrup, partially hydrogenated soybean oil, condensed skim milk, cocoa, whey, soy lecithin, and artificial and natural flavors combined perfectly. The result was a unique chocolate flavor that wasn't quite milk chocolate and wasn't quite dark chocolate. It was something in between, with a hint of vanilla. Kids loved how long Tootsie Rolls lasted in their mouths. You could chew one for minutes, and the flavor would keep coming back strong. Each Tootsie Roll was individually wrapped in wax paper with the iconic red and white logo, making them easy to carry in pockets and lunchboxes daily. During World War II, Tootsie Rolls were included in soldiers' rations because they didn't melt in the heat and could withstand extreme temperatures in battle. Soldiers loved them, and when they returned home, they shared their love of Tootsie Rolls with their families, making the candy even more beloved. Tootsie Rolls also became legendary during the Korean War, when soldiers used them as emergency rations and even as a code word for ammunition supply. The candy's durability and affordability made it a symbol of American ingenuity and resilience during difficult times when resources were scarce and rationed carefully. Tootsie Rolls are still made today and remain one of the best-selling candies in America, with over 64 million pieces produced every single day. Unlike almost every other 1940s penny candy, Tootsie Rolls never vanished. They're still everywhere, still delicious, and still a reminder of simpler times when pennies mattered. Tootsie Rolls are proof that sometimes the simplest things are the best, and that a candy created over a century ago can still bring happiness. Orange slices, spearmint leaves, mint leaves, Necco wafers, Tootsie Rolls. 5 more penny candies from the 1940s that cost 1 cent and brought joy to millions. 45 down, each one a memory fading fast. 15 more 1940s penny candies remain. Let's finish this journey together. Junior Mints were one of the newest and most sophisticated penny candies introduced in the late 1940s that felt fancy and elegant. For 1 cent, kids got a small box filled with bite-sized chocolate-covered mint candies that felt fancy and grown-up compared to other penny candies. Created in 1949 by the Cambridge Candy Company, now owned by Tootsie Roll Industries, Junior Mints were named after a popular Broadway show called Junior Miss. The candy was made from a soft, creamy peppermint center surrounded by a thin shell of dark chocolate, creating a perfect balance of cool mint. Each piece was small, about the size of a dime, and smooth, melting slowly on the tongue and leaving a refreshing aftertaste that lasted. Kids loved Junior Mints because they tasted like something you'd get at a fancy restaurant or a movie theater, not a corner candy store. The candy was sold in small yellow boxes with the Junior Mints logo printed in red and white, and each box contained about a dozen pieces. The packaging made them feel premium and special, even though they cost just 1 cent, the same price as other penny candies sold nearby. Junior Mints were especially popular at movie theaters, where they were sold at the concession stand and eaten during the show while watching films. The combination of mint and chocolate was refreshing and satisfying, and the candy didn't melt in your hands like regular chocolate bars did in summer. By the late 1940s, Junior Mints had become one of the most popular movie theater candies in America, and they're still sold there today. Junior Mints are still made with the same recipe and remain a beloved classic candy, sold in boxes of all sizes at candy shops everywhere. Unlike many 1940s penny candies, Junior Mints never vanished. They're still around, still minty, and still a reminder of simpler times when pennies bought sophistication. And Junior Mints proved that penny candy didn't have to be simple or childish. It could be elegant, delicious, and timeless, a candy that adults enjoyed. The candy became a symbol of affordable luxury, a treat that felt special even though it cost just 1 cent during the difficult post-war years. In the 1940s, Junior Mints represented a new era of candy making, when innovation and quality could coexist with affordability and accessibility for everyone. M&Ms were one of the most revolutionary penny candies of the 1940s that changed the candy industry forever with their innovative hard shell. For 1 cent, kids got a small handful of colorful, candy-coated chocolate pieces that didn't melt in your hands. A revolutionary feature at the time. Created in 1941 by Forrest Mars and Bruce Murray, the M&M in the name, M&Ms were originally made exclusively for the military. The candy was designed to give soldiers a portable, soon durable chocolate treat that could survive the heat of the Pacific and the European cold. The secret was the hard sugar shell that protected the chocolate inside, a technique Mars saw being used with British Smarties during the war. M&Ms were made from milk chocolate covered in a thin candy shell, and the original colors were red, yellow, green, brown, orange, and violet. Each piece was small, round, and smooth, with the iconic MM stamped on one side to identify the brand and prevent counterfeiting. During the war, M&Ms were included in soldiers' rations, and soldiers loved them. They were easy to carry, didn't make a mess, and tasted wonderful. In 1945, after the war ended, M&Ms were released to the public, and they became an instant hit with kids and adults everywhere. Kids loved the bright colors, the crunchy shell, and the smooth chocolate inside that melted slowly on their tongues and tasted delicious. Whoppers were one of the best deals in penny candy history, offering double the value for the same price as other candies. For 1 cent, kids got 2 malted milk balls covered in chocolate, double the value of most other penny candies sold at stores. Created in 1949 by Leaf Brands, now owned by Hershey, Whoppers were originally called Giants when they were first introduced in the earlier 1930s. By 1949, they were rebranded as Whoppers and sold in cellophane wrappers, 2 for a penny, making them an incredible bargain for kids. The candy was made from malted milk powder, sugar, corn syrup, and chocolate, creating a light, crunchy center with a sweet, malty flavor covered perfectly. Each Whopper was about the size of a marble, and kids loved the satisfying crunch when they bit into them during snack time. Whoppers were sold in bulk at candy stores and 5 and dimes, and kids would buy several pairs and eat them slowly throughout the day. The candy was especially popular at movie theaters, where it was sold in small boxes and eaten fun during the show while watching films. Whoppers didn't melt in your hands, and the crunchy texture made them fun to eat without making a mess on your clothes. By the late 1940s, and Whoppers had become one of the most popular movie theater candies in America, and they're still sold at theaters everywhere today. Whoppers are still made with the same recipe and remain a beloved classic candy, sold in boxes and bags at candy shops everywhere. Unlike many 1940s penny candies, Whoppers never vanished. They're still around, still crunchy, and still a reminder of simpler times when pennies mattered. Whoppers proved that penny candy could be both fun and filling, and that a little creativity could turn a simple candy into something. The candy became a symbol of value and quality, showing that you didn't need to spend a lot of money to get something. In the 1940s, Whoppers represented the American dream, working hard, being smart with money, and finding joy in simple pleasures that didn't cost much. Smarties were one of the tangiest and most colorful penny candies introduced in the late 1940s that brought a new flavor experience. For 1 cent, kids got a roll of small pastel-colored candy tablets with a tart, fruity flavor that made their mouths pucker slightly. Created in 1949 by Edward D., a British candy maker who immigrated to New Jersey during World War II, Smarties were made using machines. The candy was made from dextrose, a type of sugar, citric acid, calcium stearate, and artificial flavors and colors, giving each tablet a tangy taste. Each roll contained about 15 tablets in colors like white, yellow, orange, pink, in green and purple with flavors like orange cream, pineapple, cherry, strawberry, and grape. Kids loved Smarties because they were tart and refreshing, completely different from the sweet, chocolate-heavy candies that dominated the 1940s candy market. The tablets were small and hard, dissolving slowly on the tongue and leaving a tingly, acidic sensation that kids found exciting and different. Smarties were sold in cellophane-wrapped rolls with the ends twisted closed, and kids loved opening them and pouring the whole roll at once. The candy was especially popular at Halloween, when Smarties were handed out by the hundreds to trick-or-treaters walking through neighborhoods at night. Smarties are still made today by the same family-owned company, now run by Edward D.'s granddaughters, and remain one of the most popular candies. Unlike many 1940s penny candies, Smarties never vanished. They're still around, still tart, and still a reminder of simpler times when pennies counted. Smarties proved that penny candy didn't have to be chocolate or chewy. It could be tart, crunchy, and completely unique in flavor and texture. The candy's simple ingredients and bold flavor made it a late 1940s hit, and its enduring popularity proves that sometimes the simplest ideas work. In the 1940s, Smarties represented innovation and creativity, showing that new immigrants could come to America and create something successful and lasting. Pops were one of the oldest and most beloved lollipop penny candies. Dots. Gumdrops were one of the newest and most popular penny candies introduced in the mid-1940s that kids absolutely loved eating every single day after school. For 1 cent, kids got a small, round candy made from layers upon layers of hard sugar, built up like an onion over many days of careful production work. The candy started as a tiny seed, usually an anise seed or a grain of sugar, and was coated repeatedly with colored sugar syrup until it reached the desired large size. The result was a candy so hard it was nearly impossible to bite through, hence the name Jawbreaker that warned kids about the candy's extreme toughness and durability. Kids would suck on them for hours, slowly dissolving each layer and revealing new colors and flavors underneath that kept them interested and engaged for entire afternoons at home. Jawbreakers were made from sugar, corn syrup, and artificial flavoring, with each layer sometimes flavored differently: cherry, lemon, lime, orange, grape, and many more exciting flavors to discover. The candy was sold in bulk at candy stores and five and dimes, and kids loved them because they lasted so long, making them the best value for money available. Some kids would take the jawbreaker out of their mouth to check the color, then put it back in and keep going for hours without stopping once. Jawbreakers came in different sizes, from small marble-sized ones to huge gobstoppers that were as big as golf balls, or even larger for the bravest kids who dared. The small penny-sized jawbreakers were the most popular because they fit in kids' mouths comfortably and lasted for hours without being too overwhelming or difficult to manage safely. Jawbreakers were especially popular on long car trips, when parents would give them to kids to keep them quiet and occupied during boring drives through the countryside. The candy was also popular at school, where kids would hide them in their mouths during class and suck on them secretly without teachers noticing at all. Jawbreakers are still made today in various sizes, from tiny to gobstopper huge, and remain a popular classic candy sold at stores everywhere across America and around the world. Unlike many 1940s penny candies, jawbreakers never vanished. They're still around, still hard, and still a reminder of simpler times when pennies bought entertainment and fun. Jawbreakers proved that penny candy could be both challenging and fun, and that the best candies didn't have to taste fancy to be worth buying with your allowance. The candy became a symbol of endurance and patience, teaching kids that good things come to those who wait and work hard for them over time. Red Hot Dollars were one of the spiciest and most intense penny candies of the 1940s that brave kids absolutely loved eating to prove their toughness to friends and classmates at school every single day. For 1 cent, kids got a small round disc of hard cinnamon candy that was bright red and packed with fiery heat that made your mouth burn intensely for minutes on end. The candy was made from sugar, corn syrup, and pure cinnamon oil, giving it an authentic, powerful cinnamon taste that was almost medicinal in its intensity and strength compared to other candies available at stores. Each Red Hot dollar was about the size of a silver dollar coin, which is exactly how the candy got its memorable name, and it was extremely hard and took forever to dissolve. Kids loved Red Hot dollars because they were hot and challenging, completely different from sweet. Mild candies that everyone could eat without any problem or difficulty whatsoever in their mouths comfortably. The candy was sold in bulk at candy stores and five and dimes, scooped out of big glass jars and poured into small paper bags for eager customers waiting impatiently in line. Red Hot dollars were especially popular with boys, who would compete to see who could eat the most without crying or reaching for water to cool down their burning mouths immediately. Some kids would hold a Red Hot dollar in their mouths during class to stay alert and focused on their schoolwork throughout the long, boring day at school without falling asleep. The candy was also popular with adults who believed cinnamon candy helped freshen breath and ease sore throats during cold and flu season in winter months when everyone got sick frequently. Red Hot dollars were individually sold loose or wrapped in clear cellophane, and kids loved the intense heat that built slowly as the candy dissolved on their tongues over time gradually. The candy is extremely rare today. Most candy stores don't carry them anymore, and younger generations have never even heard of them or tasted their intense fiery flavor at all. Unlike many 1940s penny candies, Red Hot dollars have almost completely vanished from American candy stores and are now considered a forgotten relic of the past era that nobody remembers. Peach Stones were one of the most realistic and flavorful penny candies of the 1940s that kids absolutely loved buying, because they looked exactly like real peach pits from actual peaches. For 1 cent, kids got a small oval-shaped hard candy that was brown and textured to look just like a real peach stone pit from a fresh peach picked straight from the tree. The candy was made from sugar, corn syrup, and natural peach flavoring, giving it a sweet, fruity taste that captured the essence of fresh peaches perfectly every single time you put one in your mouth. Each peach stone was hard and took a very long time to dissolve completely, making it a great value for a penny because it lasted so long in your mouth without dissolving quickly. Kids loved peach stones because they tasted exactly like summer and reminded them of eating fresh peaches from the orchard during hot summer months when school was finally out for vacation. And the candy was sold in bulk at candy stores and 5 and dimes, and kids would fill their pockets with them to enjoy throughout the entire day at play with friends in neighborhoods. Peach stones were especially popular in rural areas where peach trees grew abundantly in orchards, and kids could compare the candy to the real thing fresh from the tree branches overhead. Some kids would suck on a peach stone while eating a real peach at the same time, doubling the peach flavor and making the experience even more delicious and memorable for them. The candy was individually wrapped in wax paper or sold loose in large glass jars at candy counters, and each stone had a glossy brown finish that looked incredibly realistic and authentic to everyone. Peach stones were also popular at county fairs and summer festivals when they were sold at candy booths, alongside other nostalgic treats from the past era that people remembered fondly. The candy is extremely rare today. Most candy stores don't carry them anymore, and younger generations have never even heard of them or seen them in person anywhere. Unlike many 1940s penny candies, peach stones have almost completely vanished from American candy stores and are now considered a forgotten treasure of the past that nobody remembers. Once a 1940s favorite candy that everyone knew and loved, now a forgotten piece of fruity nostalgia that old-timers remember fondly but can no longer find in stores anywhere across America today. Peach stones proved that penny candy could be both realistic and delicious at the same time, and that fruit-flavored candies could compete with chocolate and cinnamon for kids' attention successfully over many years. Charms, Pops, Dots, Gumdrops, Jawbreakers, Red Hot Dollars, Peach Stones, 5 more penny candies from the 1940s that cost 1 cent and brought memories. 55 down, each one disappearing fast. 5 more 1940s penny candies remain. Let's finish what we started together. Michigan cherries were one of the most beautiful and delicious penny candies of the 1940s that kids absolutely loved buying because they looked exactly like real cherries from trees in orchards everywhere. For 1 cent, kids got a small, round, hard candy that was bright red and shaped like a cherry, sometimes even with a little green stem attached to make it look incredibly realistic and appealing. The candy was made from sugar, corn syrup, and natural cherry flavoring, giving it a sweet, fruity taste that captured the essence of fresh cherries perfectly every single time you put one in your mouth. Each Michigan cherry was hard and took a very long time to dissolve in your mouth, making it a great value for a penny because it lasted so long and gave you hours of enjoyment. Kids loved Michigan cherries because they tasted exactly like summer and reminded them of picking fresh cherries from orchards during hot summer months when school was finally out for vacation and fun. The candy was sold in bulk at candy stores and 5 and dimes, and kids would fill their pockets with them to enjoy throughout the entire day, outdoors playing with friends in neighborhoods. Michigan cherries were especially popular in Michigan and other cherry-growing states. Kids could compare the candy to the real thing, fresh from the orchard trees nearby their homes and farms. Some kids would suck on a Michigan cherry while eating a real cherry at the same time, doubling the cherry flavor and making the experience even more delicious and memorable for many years. Candy was individually wrapped in red cellophane or sold loose in large glass jars at candy counters, and each cherry had a glossy and bright red finish that looked incredibly realistic and appealing to children. Michigan cherries were also popular at county fairs and summer festivals when they were sold at candy booths alongside other nostalgic treats from the good old days of childhood and simpler times. The candy is extremely rare today. Most candy stores don't carry them anymore, and younger generations have never even heard of them or seen them anywhere in person or online. Unlike many 1940s penny candies, Michigan cherries have almost completely vanished from American candy stores and are now considered a forgotten treasure of the sweet past era that nobody remembers. Once a 1940s favorite candy that everyone knew and loved, now a forgotten piece of fruity nostalgia that old-timers remember fondly but can no longer find in stores anywhere across the entire country today. Michigan cherries proved that penny candy could be both beautiful and delicious at the same time, and that fruit-flavored candies could compete with chocolate and cinnamon for kids' attention and hard-earned money successfully. The candy became a symbol of summer and regional pride, a small red cherry that brought the taste of Michigan orchards to kids everywhere across America during difficult wartime years. Chuckles were one of the most colorful and flavorful jelly penny candies of the 1940s that kids absolutely loved buying at every candy store they could find nearby their homes in neighborhoods. For 1 cent, kids got a single piece of soft, chewy jelly candy coated in sugar with a bright fruity flavor that tasted delicious every single time you ate one, carefully and slowly. Created in 1921 by the Fred W. Amend Company, Chuckles became a penny candy staple by the 1940s and remained incredibly popular for many decades after the war ended successfully in victory. Candy was made from sugar, corn syrup, gelatin, and fruit flavoring, giving each piece a sweet, fruity taste that lasted a long time in your mouth without dissolving too quickly like other candies. Chuckles came in 5 distinct flavors: cherry, lemon, lime, orange, and licorice, each represented by a different color that kids learned to recognize and enjoy separately from one another, always and forever. Each piece was small, about the size of a large gumdrop, and had a soft, chewy texture that was much easier to eat than hard jawbreakers or tough taffy candies that hurt your jaw. The kids loved Chuckles because they were soft and flavorful, completely different from hard candies that took forever to dissolve or chocolate that melted in hot weather during summer months outdoors in the sun. The candy was sold in strips of 5 pieces in cellophane wrappers, but individual pieces were also sold loose for a penny at candy stores everywhere across town in neighborhoods. Chuckles were especially popular at movie theaters, where they were sold at the concession stand and eaten during the show while watching films on the big screen for hours on end. Candy didn't melt in the heat, didn't make a mess on your clothes or hands, and tasted great, making them perfect for long movies that ran for hours without intermission breaks for audiences. In the late 1940s, Chuckles had become one of the most popular jelly candies in America, and they're still sold at stores everywhere today without any significant changes to the recipe. Chuckles are still made with the same recipe and remain a beloved classic candy, sold in packs at candy shops and stores across America and beyond internationally in many countries. Unlike many 1940s penny candies, Chuckles never vanished. They're still around, still soft, and still a reminder of simpler times when pennies bought sweet happiness and joy for children everywhere. Chuckles proved that penny candy could be both soft and satisfying, and that jelly candies could compete with hard candies and chocolate for kids' money and attention successfully over decades. The candy became a symbol of American candy making, showing that simple ingredients and bold flavors could create something special and lasting for generations to enjoy together as families. In the 1940s, Chuckles represented joy and laughter, a candy that made kids smile with every chewy, fruity bite they took throughout the long day at play with friends and siblings. The name Chuckles perfectly captured the happiness the candy brought to children during difficult wartime years when smiles were precious and rare in American households struggling with rationing. Gumdrops were one of the most classic and beloved penny candies of the 1940s that kids absolutely loved buying by the handful at every candy store in town every single day after school. For 1 cent, kids got a small handful of colorful gumdrops in various flavors and colors that looked appealing and tasted delicious to everyone who tried them at least once in their lives. Gumdrops had been around since the 1900s, made from sugar, corn syrup, gelatin, and fruit flavoring, giving each piece a sweet, fruity taste that lasted forever in your mouth without dissolving too quickly. The most popular flavors were cherry, orange, lemon, lime, and grape, each represented by a different bright color that kids learned to recognize and love individually over time and through experience. Each gumdrop was small, about the size of a large marble, and had a firm, chewy texture that required serious jaw work to finish completely without swallowing whole in one bite. Kids loved gumdrops because they were chewy and flavorful, completely different from hard candies that dissolved quickly, or chocolate that melted in hot weather during summer months, outdoors in the sunshine. The candy was sold in bulk at candy stores and five and dimes, scooped out of big glass jars and poured into small paper bags for eager customers waiting in line patiently. Gumdrops were especially popular at Christmas, when they were used to decorate gingerbread houses and fill candy dishes for holiday guests visiting homes for festive celebrations with family members. Some candy stores also sold spice gumdrops flavored with clove, cinnamon, and anise for adults who preferred less sweet flavors and more sophisticated tastes overall compared to children's preferences. Gumdrops were individually dusted with coarse sugar crystals, and kids loved licking the sugar coating off first before chewing the jelly center slowly and carefully to make it last longer. The candy was also popular at birthday parties and school celebrations when they were served in bowls alongside other treats for kids to enjoy freely without limits or restrictions from adults. Gumdrops are still made today and remain a popular classic candy, and sold in bulk bins at candy shops and grocery stores across America and internationally in many different countries worldwide. Unlike many 1940s penny candies, gumdrops never vanished. They're still around, still colorful, and still a reminder of simpler times when pennies bought handfuls of joy and happiness for children. Gumdrops proved that penny candy could be both simple and satisfying, and that chewy candies could remain popular for generations without changing much at all over decades of candy industry evolution. The candy became a symbol of American tradition, showing that classic candies could endure through decades of change and innovation in the candy industry successfully without losing their appeal. In the 1940s, gumdrops represented comfort and familiarity, a candy that grandparents, parents, and kids could all enjoy together at family gatherings and holiday celebrations year after year without fail. Gumdrops were a candy that transcended generations, bringing people together through shared memories of picking their favorite colors and flavors from candy jars at local stores. Malted milk balls were one of the crunch Chocolate-covered raisins were one of the healthiest and most satisfying. The candy became a symbol of compromise, showing that parents and kids could agree on a treat that satisfied everyone's needs and desires perfectly without argument.